listen, forgive me. Forgive me. Naturally, at the last moment, I said, why not just run 2 streams? Why not just run 2 streams? And I know in the past it hasn't really been successful, right? I haven't gotten that lucky. The internet has not been that kind to me in that regard, but you know, we do this so we can test, so we can push, so we can try new things. That's sort of, you know, the reason why we even, you know, created this channel. If not to just try things, if not to just push the envelope and say, oh yeah, that didn't work out so well, but we can do better. I think that's always should be the name of the game. So here we are, trying. But I thought, just in terms of the format of what we're going to be talking about today, it would be, it'd actually be pretty well served if we could do it with both streams. Just because if people want to see, because we're going to go over the Jubilee, Manson versus the Manosphere versus, or the Red Pillars versus the anti-Manosphere. And sometimes that's best served, right? That's better served with just how it looks, right? So yeah, if you do jump in, yo, what's going on? I'm glad you made it. What we're going to try to do is get this right. So if you are on the vertical, right? If you guys are looking on the vertical stream, cool. If you want a better sort of just viewing sort of pleasure, then hop on over to the horizontal stream. You can just find out, usually if you look at the, well, you know what, if I'm running 2, I don't know how to look. Oh no, that's listen, this is a normal thing that typically happens whenever I'm building this thing out. The name of the game here, right? We always want to see what we can try to sit here and improve and fix and do better. So it's almost like, by now, almost like tradition, that every time we start this damn thing, I'm in the background trying to tweak a few different things, and it typically causes me to start the stream late. Right? And today by far was the latest, so forgive me for that. But like I said, if we're not trying to trick, we're not trying to sit there and yeah, that's another feature like I'm trying to create, where I can highlight your text on the screen, and you know, people can know what we may be specifically talking about right then and there. I think it's cool, right? Just like the, you know, sometimes sitting down and playing with designs, like I think that was cool, right? So I sat down and created it. It's the same thing as when you have a house and you have to repair the pipes. It doesn't increase the value of your house, but it's necessary. You know, it makes things actually work a little better. Yeah, we got to be here for trial and error, right? Before, I didn't think I can make this happen. Right now, I'm doing both scenes. I'm getting both things up at the same time. This is wonderful for me, right? This makes me feel like, oh shit, now we're streamers, right? We're YouTubers. We're doing the damn thing. And that feels good. But listen, don't worry about it, right? The name of the game, you should always be trying to push the envelope and change and fix and try to improve the things that you can. That way, whenever you go back and revisit it, you know you put it to this level of effort. That's it, right? yeah. So you know what I mean? Take the time to make little instrumental changes so you know that's the new standard. That's all we're about. Set the standard, set the standard, set the standard. So even when you feel lazy, when you get to the point again where you feel lazy, your standard is already high. When people will look at you and say you're lazy, but look what all you accomplished today. My lazy days, I get a lot done by 7 o'clock. You know, man, I appreciate that. You see, this is what we use it for. We highlight, right? This is a great highlight, right? And then when we hit the, right, this is a great use for it. So the point is, right, what we're supposed to do here, and if you guys are new here, you should basically sub in, like our new friend just did, right? This is what the YouTubers, this is creators, what we're here for. What we like to do, what we're talking about today is just about, okay, Mark Manson. And if you guys don't know who he is, he's an author, right? He's a New York Times best-selling author, for whatever it means to you. Because just a little insider, getting on the New York Times bestseller, that's more like a commercial, like an industry sort of move. It's not just you wrote a book and somehow it resonated with millions of people and they simply sold it. No, publishers push that sort of thing. You can see like everyone that goes on Oprah ends up being a bestseller. How? Right? Like, how? So, but the point is, so he's there, and he wrote this book called the one of the books that he wrote that I read, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It was a humorous read, right? And it's some really good points in there. But what he's there to do is talk about how the manosphere is toxic, is negative. And then you have some people that consider themselves red pillars or from the manosphere, and then they're going to sort of like in a Jubilee style fight or debate his point of view of what he has to say. So what we want to do today, we want to sit here and try to look and say and be able to point out when you think someone is wrong, when you think someone is off base. You're not necessarily saying we're going to go and say, yo, Mark, you're completely off base, or one of these other people, you're completely correct. We want to be able to, like anything we ever talk about here, we're concerned with nuance. We're concerned with the ability to call out stuff when it does not make sense. When it's bad for you, you should be able to say, hey, that doesn't work. Right? Even if you're a diehard Republican and some Republicans do something stupid, you should be able to say, that's stupid. Same thing with Democrats. They do something, you should be able to say, hey, that's actually stupid. So what we're going to do, we're going to get into the, don't worry about it. We got the video, right? It's part of the reason I was late. Part of the reason I was late, it was trying to get everything like that up to speed. But like I said, I'm trying to run both these concurrently, back to back. So I want to check up on the streams as we go. But besides that, right? Besides that, we just typically we think that when you run two streams, the vertical is supposed to get more interaction. Newly Red Pill and I don't hear me. Right. This is then you've got a great place here. Listen, I think part of the red pill process is you take it and you start to question a lot of your long held beliefs, the way you thought. And it's not just about women. It's just about how society says when you're not in control of your own life and your own thinking, if you can go to basketball court, yeah. Yo, listen, man, do your thing. Enjoy that. So when you're not in control of your life, what ends up happening is you just go by default. And society says your default is this. Do these things, work for 20, 30 years, and then die. Right? That's the default. Society says, become a cognitive machine. I would love if you become an entrepreneur. I would love if you would advance society forward. But if you don't, if you're not thinking about yourself for yourself, I will tell you what to think. Part of that program told us to take women and pedestalize them, that they don't do any wrong. Hell, they're not horny, they don't fart, right? They never make a mistake. We grew up thinking like that. This is why we used to yearn. We used to yearn for this angelic, perfect thing. But in reality, you're human. And when we pedestalize you, we do you the disservice of not allowing you to be a person. You don't get to think, you don't get to feel, you don't get to make mistakes, you don't get to cry, you don't get to do anything. You're supposed to just be this typified image for us, and then we just move with that. We don't need to hear anything else. We don't care about anything else. All we care about is you still being that ever-present muse that shouldn't be changed, that shouldn't be touched, that shouldn't, nothing else. Who needs to be that? Who needs that type of pressure on someone? Man or woman, who needs that? That type of pressure is unfair. Give her the agency to make mistakes. Give her the agency to be human. Therefore, we can treat you as human. You're self-serving just like we are, right? You cheat, you steal, you lie. You do the same things we do. Instead of us turning a blind eye to it, we can just say, oh, I expected you to move in your self-interest as humans do. When you overcome that, that is to be praised. Same way a man does it, that is to be praised. But you're going to prioritize different things just like we're going to prioritize different things. But now part of that red pill process is you get angry. You get angry about the lies and that you kind of upheld the entire time. You believed in it and you put it out there as well. So what happens? You get angry. You have this rage moment where you just want to lash out. This is what you see most people get stuck. Most men get stuck in this position where they can't wait to find a position. They can't wait to find a woman to tell them all about themselves. You'll find them in women's comment sections. You'll find them yelling and arguing with women. But like most things, like most torturous, terrible things, like if you're going through hell, keep going. You get through that and you realize I was really mad about myself. I was mad at myself that I believed everything that I was being told. Even when I looked and said, none of that shit makes sense. You can go back and look at your old behavior and say, what was I doing? You were probably moving with the best intentions, with the best information you had at the time. You did not realize you were so far off base. You didn't. Now you get a better sense of it. Just like Neo, when he took the pill, when he said, oh, listen, I'm going to show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. And you woke up and now you eat gruel, right? Now you eat gruel. Now that is that's your life. You eat gruel, right? You know, shout out to the new homeowner. Yay, second time over. So yeah, now you're out in the matrix, and now you have this world's responsibility because everyone thinks you are the one. Now you get to decide how your life moves. Before in the matrix, they told you what to do. They told you, and if you got out of line, three white men in suits came, and you know they moved really fast, and sometimes they wiped out your ability to speak. Your mouth's gone. But they're going to tell you what you can do. Here are the laws of society. Here are the bounds in which you can operate. That's the matrix. Now, we started making that synonymous with there's a red pill and the blue pill. Blue pill means just put me back to sleep. Right? Just put me back to sleep. One of the, I forgot his name. One of the characters there, he wanted just put me back in. Because I came out the matrix. I saw what it was. I don't like it. Tell me the comfortable lie. And that's fine for some people. Part of you being red pill, part of you understanding this is saying, okay, cool. This is the way I see these things. Everyone else has their own time and place. What do they say about the red pill? They don't recruit, right? They just accept you when you arrive. A lot of us go through scenarios in which we found out what we were thinking was completely wrong. And it opened us, and this again, the process, ideally, the process is to get you to think for yourself. Now, it's plenty of pitfalls in there because people they're not really accustomed to thinking of themselves. Think about it yourself. You grew up, your parents told you what to think. Your church told you what to think. Your parents took you to church so they could tell you what to think. They chose a school for you, or the public school that had a certain leaning. You were Democrat because your parents were Democrat. You were Republican because your parents were Republican. You held these beliefs because someone else first introduced it to it. You're Christian because they were Christian. You're Muslim because you grew up there. You're Muslim. You didn't ever say, like, what is the first thought that you had for yourself? They said, let me decide. You like chicken, Brussels sprouts, fish, whatever is what they fed you. Sometimes they fed you too much and you said, I don't like this, right? You had an adverse reaction. Okay. That's your body making a decision saying, no, not this. Despite what you said, I don't like this. It's not good for me. We don't really have times or instances in our life where we make the decisions. We simply exist, and then things happen and we're like, okay, I guess that's what it is. I guess that's what is happening now. The reality is when you take that red pill, or once you come adjacent to a lot of the things or the ideals that you see in the manosphere, you start saying, okay, it's time for me to make my own decisions. Part of making those decisions is say, who am I going to consume, right? Not in a sexual way. You can go in these spaces and then everyone is loosely attached to the term manosphere or red pillar. Some people can call me red pillar. Some people call me part of manosphere. But when you watch or you peruse my content, you rarely see me, right, calling a woman out of her name. Despite when women come in and say, hey, you're ugly, and she looks nothing close to gorgeous. You let them have that. I have a more reasoned approach where I see there's issues on both sides, and there's a way for us to have these conversations. We want to search for the nuance. The best thing I say from that's probably more akin to like the manosphere is like, yo, if this is not working for you, walk away. Walk away. You want to talk about body count? We can talk about these things, but the truth is a lot of this comes down to you. The first thing about the red pill is you wake up and decide, how do you want to live your life? Some people wake up and decide, I need a new master. I'm trading out one, but I'm consciously deciding who I want to follow now. Part of the larger issue is the manosphere came to a place where this vacuum existed, and nature abhors a vacuum. So the manosphere slid right in and said, cool, great, congratulations. I'm here. You've left a lot of men behind. We saw that. We witnessed that in society in a way to correct the imbalances prior to that. We uplifted women, but part of that uplifting, we cut out the knees from men. That's not really uplifting. That's simply rearranging the deck. We call it empowerment. We call it equality, but what it was is something different. I'm going to make you better. I'm going to uplift you in society, but I'm going to tell these men, you can't do this. You're not this. I'm going to take my awareness away from them. So now what do you have from that? Boys can't read. Boys are diagnosed. The comparative lens is always a feminine one. So when boys have trouble sitting down, well, she doesn't. Something must be wrong with him. You overdiagnose them. You drug them. You over-medicate them. We just do this, and we thought this is what it was supposed to be because our focus is elsewhere. It's like we're trying to learn how to juggle. We're trying to learn how to actually make things happen at the same time. And we didn't realize we're pretty bad at juggling, right? We're pretty bad at juggling. What's going on from the Philippines? That's on my list. That's on my list to travel to. Glad you're here. Like if you're new here, again, subscribe to the channel, double tap that screen. When's my little hotkeys are supposed to work? Yeah. So we end up leaving a lot of these men behind. Yes. Society completely overcorrected. And in that essence, we're like, but it's for a good cause. It's for a good cause, but it's not. You cannot have one without the other, but we're pretending like we can. So we have now a society that is still in this place where when you devalue men, they call it normal. When you're out here, you say, hey, these men suck, or hate men, you look at that, you say it's normal. You say it makes no difference. No one cares. You have content daily. And you know, this is to my discredit, because I have to sift through a lot of this because I'm trying to put out a lot of volume every day, right? Every day, every week. You see so much stuff that's just pure misandry. Just and they'll flat out say, I hate men. I hate men. We know that the thumb is still on the scale because you know men can't do that. Men can't talk about you just need to use these women for their bodies. Don't give them commitment, lie to them, steal from them. You have women out here saying, if he invites you to his apartment on day 1, day 2, early, steal from him. You have women doing bad things, drugging men, leaving with their Rolexes and jewelry, and they saying, good. Why did he even invite them up? So where we end up missing the point is when we focus so much heavily on one gender to the detriment, and we get the correction, we can understand that, but we can do two things at once. Hell, we can fight multiple wars at once, can't we? We can do that. So what you end up seeing is the part of the overcorrection is now that this vacuum is being filled, it's being filled by actors, it's being filled by people, streamers, actors, or bad actors, people that are not in line with the messaging that larger society wants you to have, wants you to believe. Larger society wants you to get back on code. Give you an easy example of this to digest. Marvel. For 10 years, Marvel captivated us by doing a very, very simple thing. They took the comic book and they said, do this. All right, do this. Take some creative license here and there. Right? Yeah, take some creative. I know you got licensures. You can't use some of these characters. You really can't use the X-Men, but do this. Hell, you can't even say mutants. Call them enhanced. Call them enhanced, right? Let's make this happen. Right? We'll make it. We'll find some way. Okay, great. We're here. We got it. Cool. We're all together. We're all in love. We're all happy. And then you started with the messaging. For 10 years, you had us. You could not miss. $1 billion movie, $1 billion movie, $1 billion movie. Now we're at this point where what are we supposed to think? What are we supposed to do? You keep telling us what we should like. You keep telling us what's important to us. And we keep telling you this is not really what we want. At what point do we get a say? At what point do we get back and say, hey, if you're not going to listen to us as men about what's important to us, we're simply going to take the step back. I think that's where we find ourselves. But let me move into this, and I gotta grab my charger because we were doing a lot of stuff out of place. Right, but we're gonna start playing the video for you that know who Mark Manson is. We'll make some time in between where we can jump back in the chat if we have any questions or anything that you particularly want to point out. Of course, I'll be stopping it when I feel like it's appropriate. But let's have a good one. Let's have some interaction in the chat like we started with. And again, I've still got some stuff behind the scenes I got to take care of. So please bear with me, but we're running 2 streams at the same time. But the whole point is, like, we want to have a great conversation here.
What has become popularized as the Manosphere define their message around anti-feminism. Women are ruining culture and society.
Well, feminism is ruining culture and society. You're kind of look-smaxed right now for your age group. Like,
thank you.
There's many men in the Manosphere that are spreading a 100% positive message. I think we should have 100 more Andrew Tates.
Has feminism held men back, or has the Manosphere distorted what masculinity means for an entire generation? I'm John Regalado, and from Jubilee Media, this is Surrounded, where one brave soul faces a room full of disagreeers. Today we are diving into the Manosphere, feminism, and what being a high-value man actually means. Our guest today is a best-selling author who's made a career out of challenging the way men think about themselves. Mark Manson, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Are you ready to debate this circle?
I think so.
All right, Manosphere folks, are you ready to get into this? All right, let's get started.
Hi, I'm Mark Manson. I'm the #1 New York Times best-selling author and a former men's dating and relationship coach. And today...
So I think we're going to have to just make sure we break this up before the stream gets angry and says, oh, you got to go, you got to go, you got to go. I actually think we might be good right now. But yeah, the horizontal might be suffering a little bit. But so you get it. This is the lineup. This is how it looks, right? If you guys are, you guys might be fine. So yeah, this is the lineup. This is a score. This is what's supposed to be happening. Glad you made this one. So yeah, you get to see, hey, okay, this is sort of what we want to call, and this is just me. You can correct me if you think I'm wrong, you think I'm out of line. I think Mark Manson, just like several others, are like Louis Theroux, is sort of the industry sort of trying to reassert itself. What we saw was a lot of, like, we talked about this, or I talked about this on a video before. The media, mainstream media, is out of step, right? It's out of step with YouTube, streamers. You get that information rapidly. There's a vetting process, there's a spin, there's a lean that happens with mainstream media. The CNN versus Fox, same story, different lean. Same event, what happened, but here's a lean one way or the other. So what we end up seeing is there's a delay. When you can just say what you feel, say what you think, unfiltered, outside of, saying some things that, like Nick Fuentes, might get you canceled, might get you demonetized, you can get your message across very quickly. So that delay that you see with mainstream media and, well, social media is sometimes 5-10 years. Some of the topics that you'll start to see mainstream media talk about have already been talked about again and again and again and again, but they need that time to have that delay. So what you see is essentially hit pieces. I'm trying to get you back in line, and I didn't care. I didn't care until I saw the amount of men, young boys, that did not conform to the way we thought they would. What I mean by that, look at the last election. The amount of young men that were online that voted more Republican, Democrats were shocked. Like, what has happened? Because you were out of step. You were years behind, that the world or the attention of the young has largely shifted online. So where do you end up behind the 8 ball, and now you're trying to say, how can I get them back in line? Well, this vacuum was created where you told them they weren't shit. For years, especially on the Democratic side, you say, hey, these guys ain't shit. You toxic masculinity. You, as a boy, as a young man, or as a man, were told you were bad without ever having a conversation with you. So eventually, over time, what ends up happening? Yeah, they're still trying to catch up. The the vacuum has been filled. So now you want to come up and unseat that vacuum. You want to try to scoop it out and say, no, listen to us again. The problem is you never gave them an alternative. You never told them, if you listen to us, this is what I can do for you. This is where I can take things for you. This is how I can help you. You're struggling here. You're struggling here. This is what I can do for you. You just said them that you like, bad. Now you did this at a point, at a place where you no longer had any real clout or credibility with the people that left. The people that decided I'm going to go somewhere else and think for myself or find some other altar to kneel at, they left because what you were telling them was not working. You telling young men what to do, pedestalize women, buy this house, work this job, die, retire, then die. Call it a good life. We call your years after retirement, we call them the golden years. What do you mean? I want to go to Greece. I want to walk the Acropolis. I can't. My knee has been bad for 20 years. I've had to fuse my back because I had a job at a factory. But this is the time. These are the golden years I can enjoy my life. I can barely get up. I wheeze when I get out of a chair. My life, it hurts to live, but this is what I traded for. I gave you 40 years of labor. Now you have younger people saying, hey, I don't want that. I don't want that. I want to try these things. I want to do these things instead. It's the same thing you said, hey, this is how it's supposed to work with relationships. And they said, cool, great. That doesn't work. Tried it, right? I wrote the poetry. She laughed in my face. What happened? You said this was going to work. You said this was the key. Nah, it's not. It doesn't work at all. You said if I did this and I did this and I said this and I stayed up here. No, I'm in the friend zone. Consistently. Yo, just be brave. She laughed at me. Now she made a TikTok about me. Now I'm a 5-part story time of why I had the audacity to ask her out. We can get deeper. We get more serious. You guys, you did the thing. You got married. Then you got divorced. You took half. 2 of your kids that weren't yours. But now, because you didn't find out till year 10, you're still on the hook for them. Okay, you stepped up. You played stepdaddy. And then that kid, when they got older, said, I never really cared about you. I never really liked you. I want my deadbeat daddy who just stepped out of nowhere. And your wife, who you looked at, she said, listen, let's be real. I never really was feeling you. Subscriber Sundays, we just talked about that. We showcased a video just like that. These are real instances that are happening. The difference where we got saved, where we had this sudden epiphany, is the internet came and said, hey, you know that story you used to have in a barbershop, you used to have on a basketball court, you used to have when you're just out with your guys? Let's tell it here. He told the story and everyone else said, wait a second. Wait a second. You're miserable in your marriage too? You don't have a say in your marriage too? I thought it was just me. I thought I was just doing something wrong. You get belittled, you get chastised, you get made fun of, your opinions don't count in your marriage? Fuck. So now you have people just saying, let's stop. We're exchanging stories, that's good, let's do that. But let's start thinking for ourselves. And then you saw this vacuum. Then people came in and said, hey, you ever consider this? And then what did they do? They started backing some of these things with statistics. No one knew anything about, no one knew to look at the divorce rates or who initialized the divorce. No one knew to look at that until Kevin Samuels stepped up and said, hey, this is what this data says. No one cared about the single motherhood rate in the Black community versus other communities. No one cared to look at this stuff. Someone came, filled that void. So even if you didn't agree with everything someone said, at least someone was speaking your language. I'll say all that to say, you had several different people that came up to that space, into the Manosphere space. And depending who you were, depending what you listened to, who you resonated with. Among my friends, we had all different ones. Just it kind of came down to our style. Some of the things I liked about Kevin Samuels was style. I liked his cologne. I liked that he dressed up well. Did I agree with everything he said? No, but one of the things that I loved that he said, eat the meat, spit out the bones. Okay, that makes sense. Rather when you have mainstream society now trying to insert their opinion, they're telling you to believe me in totality. We should never listen to anyone totality, clearly except me. But yeah, you should have the ability to say, that doesn't make sense. Can I challenge that? Can I push us back? Just like I said earlier, when you Republican or Democrat, you should have the ability to come back and say, hey, I don't know about that. I think that's wrong. I think that's incorrect. There should be nothing wrong with you actually trying and do that and pushing back and saying, hey, you guys, you got a couple of things wrong here. This actually might be the truth here. Let's listen. Let's take a look. Like, okay, yeah, no, I get what you're saying. This makes a little sense here. I'm gonna have that. I don't know. It's not what's on the outside. It matters. It's on the inside, and I care about them. Right. You get to be ugly, right? It's on the inside. That's what counts. No, but in reality, you had just this function. You believe what they told you to believe. Your mom told you, baby. It's in here this matter. Like a Disney movie, like a Pixar movie. The power of friendship is going to be the thing that saves the day. The power of friendship is going to be the thing that makes her look at me and say, you know what? You're all right. Right? Let's go to Sadie Hawkins dance. She's going to ask you out. Doesn't happen. You see the movies, the TV shows. The jock always ends up in the beginning. He's a menace. But eventually he learns to respect you as you stand up for the right people. You're going to get a black eye, but by the end of it, you're going to be the hero. They're going to be carrying you on the shoulders. You're going to be Rudy. But in reality, what happens? She goes off the jock. She goes over the jock, right? Yeah, everyone is beautiful. Everyone is beautiful. Yet the data says, well, she kind of likes this. Yo, be the nice guy. Be there for her. Yeah, why is she going around that? That dude's not even in the school. He's college age. What is that? There was no explanation for that. You had so many cracks in the theory. We just didn't have an inquisitive mind to turn and look. We didn't have enough people to say, that thing that you're whispering and you're curious about, so am I. So now we find ourselves in this spot where it's too late. The cat is out the bag. And these different ideas and theories are firmly entrenched into these spaces. So now mainstream media comes and said, we got to unglue this. We got to unstick this. So they make the documentary for Netflix with Louis Theroux, who following around HS Tiki Taki, talks to Myron Gates, talks to a couple of people who are notorious for the worst kind of things in the space. And they want to use that to be the hit piece and say, well, Andrew Tate said this. Byron Gaines said this. You ignore that most of what is said in the Red Pill is there's stuff about women, but most of it are like, yo, it sucks. I know. You got to improve. Everything that happened in your life is probably your fault. Right? It's either you got too close, you let her in, and you didn't vet. So she ran amok in your space. True. Cool. What did you learn from that? That you're emotionally affectable. Where do you got to go back? You got to go back to the lab. Improve yourself. To me, that was always the message that came after you took the red pill, you swallowed it with water, maybe a glass of milk, depending on your speed. It came down and said, the world does not owe you shit. Self-improve. That's it. That's the way I took it. The world just, I don't care. You got to self-improve.
I'm surrounded by the Manosphere. My first surrounded claim is that the Manosphere is a billion-dollar business that profits off keeping men angry and insecure.
If you would like to debate this claim, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, it's good to meet you.
What's up, man?
Jake.
Nice to meet you.
So I think it's important to ask first, what do you mean by the Manosphere?
I would say it is the subculture of men's dating and life advice that is particularly identifiable by its sexist and traditional beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, feels a little bit no true Scotsman-y if you define the category as being sexist.
So again, right, and we're gonna have to stop it frequently, just so right, yeah, so we don't end up getting flagged by the old algorithm. Yeah, no. Listen, you don't necessarily feel right. You don't feel angry or insecure, but it's the way you're labeled. You're supposed to feel like this. Those people in those spaces, of course, that's what you mean. mainstream media paints with such a large brush, and it's by design. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm a conspiracy theorist here, but you see the same way they talk about just regular issues. Oh, the Democrats say this, or the liberals say this, right? Or yeah, conservatives believe this, conservatives do this. It's you get to the point where it's like we don't allow any nuance. And I get it. You want to talk for most people, you want to talk for everyone, but I'm talking about my own particular life that somehow still mirrors most of these people, yet we don't get to be most of these people with our issues. It's always coming down to, if you believe this, this is what's wrong. And the easiest way we do that is we make it seem as if you can notice anytime we want to vilify someone, we make them akin to like Nazis, Hitler, and then that's it. Of course, everything's bad about you because you believe this, and this is the ultimate bad that we can think of. Therefore, that's where you are.
Then from the category moving out from there, we're going to have a problem, because I'm not a sexist. And so if you want to say that, like, if you're in the manosphere, that means you're sexist, or no true member of the manosphere isn't sexist, like, that's not a productive.
So how do you define it?
I think the manosphere are people who focus heavily on men's issues and are trying to instruct men on how to lead better lives, who are trying to fulfill a role that maybe a father should have or maybe can't because of a variety of societal environments. And they might do that well, they might do that poorly. And I think the discussion is about how well the sort of figures that are gaining popularity are doing that.
Right.
And maybe some of them might be sexist and some of them might be telling true things. And there's kind of a variety of mixed bags on this. But before I move on, does that seem like a reasonable starting point for what the manosphere is?
That would be a broader definition than I would give to it.
Well, yeah, you defined it as sexist, and so obviously
yes.
much broader.
Right. I think sometimes part of the issues when you see these jubilees, you're expecting to meet people who are emotionally affectable, who are so gung-ho and so amped up about a thing, right? Yeah, exactly. You expect someone to come there and say, no, you're absolutely wrong. What he did was perfect. He came in and said, let me first define the terms. If you're having any type of discussion, any type of debate, like we can do right now, who's the GOAT, MJ or LeBron? If we leave it as vague like that, like Mark Manson left it, just vague, then you can come in there and you can decide for yourself upon what terms make sense for you. But if we say, who's the GOAT? Defined by championships. Well, we know we have an answer. We've solidified exactly, we codified exactly what we're talking about. These are the terms. So it's beautiful what he's doing. Comes right in there and says, wait, hold up a sec. Hold a sec. Would you agree? This is how I'm defining it. Would you agree? Oh, that's overly broad. You called all these people sexist. Is that not overly broad? And remember, this is a New York Times best-selling author. So you would expect that there'll be some more of an ability to reason, to think, to have these things already thought out.
Like, yes, I'm not even in your definition, so that's not.
And I am in your definition.
Right.
So it's. I would say what has become popularized as the manosphere, and maybe my reading is off on this, but it's stuff like the Tate brothers, Myron Gaines, Harrison Sullivan, all the guys featured in the recent documentary that came out, like that kind of brand and flavor of men's advice. And I'll say this too. So back when I was in this industry, and I was giving men advice professionally, there was a pretty clear delineation between the guys who were just genuinely like, hey, let me help you try to get a date. Like, let me help you try to make.
It's tough out there.
Yeah, like help you get a raise at work, right?
Yeah,
and there
Go
was
to
a
the
whole
gym, get stronger,
there was
be
a
more
whole
confident.
subculture of men who really very much define their message around anti-feminism. Women are ruining culture and society.
Feminism is ruining culture and society. That doesn't mean all women are, but it does mean feminism is. And I think it's an issue to conflate the idea of like, oh, women are, like women
Sure.
versus the philosophy of feminism.
Sure.
See, I love that, right? They always go with the extremes. They don't go with someone just like him that, you don't really know, you don't really see, because what's negative, what bleeds with leads. So you put that in the forefront so it gets more clicks. So part of it is the algorithm. The algorithm wants you to sit there and consume. all algorithms on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, whatever your flavor, Rumble, whatever your flavor, all they're built to do is for you to stay there. So they're going to feed you things that are controversial because it holds your attention. You don't, outside of dog videos and baby videos, you don't really sit there and watch. Maybe it's something particularly is your speed, but if it's negative, yeah, you'll watch it. You'll watch it. So it pushes this forward, and this is just a natural consequence of how the algorithm works. Right? It's not just this trying to highlight, a misogyny or misandry. This is how it works. So where we find ourselves in this position, in this fight, where, hey, listen, this isn't really working. This isn't really happening. But let me delineate what I'm talking about here. Women aren't the issue. The ideology of some parts of feminism became problematic. It went off the rails. But leaving and saying, well, I'm not saying women are the issue, but look at how they look and define manosphere. They're not talking about manosphere. They're talking about everyone that is under that umbrella. That becomes a term, right? Bark. Actually, that sounds pretty good. Actually, yeah. So everyone under that becomes the evil, the great evil. You fly this flag, you by definition are now sexist. But feminism, we look at how we came in and just said, wait, not every one of them. Not every one of them. I can't speak to that.
You could have male feminists who I think are often more destructive for culture than female feminists are.
Right.
And you could have women who are not feminists. And so on both ends, I think that's a conflation not to make.
Okay. So my claim specifically is about the men in this space who their primary message towards men is that of anger, that of selfishness, empowerment through intimidation and domination of others.
I think there's a lot of different things there. I
Sure.
think there are a lot of things that you should be angry about.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that you should be a victim. And I think that
So just the way Mark described that, domination, you start to go into to the fringes, right? To the fringes of the space, and then use that as the wrecking ball to say, you see why this thing is bad, why this thing does not work, why this thing is essentially evil. But in reality, we know different. That we know that every large umbrella, every large group has bad actors, but the bad actors should not spoil the bunch. When you look at policing, you see the worst of it because we highlight that. You look at that and you say, this is what it has to be, right? But you look at and then now we say, oh, policing is bad. Police are bad. So when you see one, give them an attitude. NWA, we see that. We see the same thing in the Black community, right? You're as bad as the worst things we see. But there's certain times when we don't do that, when there's a vested interest in us not doing that. And I hate to sound like this is a sort of a conspiracy sort of live stream, but we don't really do that with white men. We don't look at you and say you're the worst of your kind. We don't do that with religion. We don't do that with Catholicism, even though you have documented history of this happening amongst priests and young boys. We don't say the entirety of the thing is doomed. So we need to pay attention when we pay special attention to vilifying certain aspects, till saying, hey, these people are bad, these people are wrong. That becomes more telling to us. That becomes, okay, there's a concerted effort here because I want you to think, I want you to feel like this.
just because a certain society has decided that the future is female, has decided to instruct men from a very young age, has removed fathers from the home, has used various incentive programs to encourage single motherhood rates, has made it such that boys are told from age 7 that the fundamental way to view history is a patriarchy. And because other men used to be bad, which I think is even debatable, a claim on its own, that you therefore are bad as well. And I think that there's a lot of things that you should be angry about. And if you have a young boy who's going through that, if you have gone through that, these are things you should be angry about. That doesn't mean you should be selfish.
Right.
Same thing, idea of like, you shouldn't intimidate and you shouldn't lead with force, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't be a dominating figure. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't lead with a positive masculine leadership of what that is. It is a dominant. And if you have a young boy who's going through that, if you have gone through that, these are things you should be angry about. That doesn't mean you should be selfish.
Right.
Same thing, idea of like, you shouldn't intimidate and you shouldn't lead with force, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't be a dominating figure. And I think the good manosphere figures, I mean, you named a couple of them, whether they're good or bad, I don't want to mention the personal lives of those people, but the message of like, shut up, Go to the gym. I'm sorry your life is hard. And you should be angry about that and you should fight back, but you need to channel that into, talking to that pretty girl anyway.
Yeah.
And being strong anyway.
I want to make 2 points. One is that I think you've just done the same thing with feminism that you accused me of doing with the Manosphere, right? Which is taking some of the most extreme claims and then classifying the entire school of thought based on those extreme claims. We can get into the nuts and bolts
Well,
of
I'm
that,
taking what's taught in elementary schools.
which is some extreme stuff. And
The extreme manosphere stuff isn't taught in elementary schools.
I understand.
Yeah, you don't see that. That's not the messaging that comes into actual school. We don't talk about that. We don't push that. We don't make that seem like this is a normal thing. We don't teach them, hey, young boys, you should look at women as equals. You should look at them as not as things to be pedestalized, things to be worshipped. You should look at them and say they're people. They have their own thoughts, their abilities, their own desires. Respect that. Also, when they do you wrong, it matters. When someone tries to belittle you, it matters. You should not witness us give them separate rules for you than you actually receive. That's not really taught. What we show now is, hey, we got to warn people. We got to make sure they know about the evils of this. Also, there was another post one of my friends sent me where it said everything good about being a little girl is praised. If you ask a little girl, hey, what's good about being a little girl? Anything she answers, she's like, she's strong. She says, yes. You're beautiful. Yes. That's amazing. But if a young boy says these, hey, I'm strong. Well, girls can be strong too. I'm beautiful. What are you saying, that girls are ugly? This is the direction we've taken society. Maybe because on purpose, but certainly through inaction. We've arrived here because we simply said, okay, we'll just let things go. We'll just let things rock. We end up in this place where it doesn't actually end up making any sense. The past is certainly, it's right up there. You're waiting for it to happen as you pretend like none of this actually matters.
The future is female. You see people wearing that in their elementary schools.
I understand.
Can we agree that's an extreme position?
I do agree with that.
Okay.
So I would agree with you
Shout
on
out to
that.
Mark.
That probably shouldn't be in an elementary school.
Yeah.
Funded
by the state.
Yes. The second point, there's the advice and then there's the packaging, right?
Yes.
What you just said, right? Get your life together. Go to the gym. Take care of yourself. Like, work
Amen.
on yourself.
Yes, sir.
Right? Like, these are all great things. My point would be that you can get that advice in 100 other different places without the toxic packaging.
But that doesn't go viral. People don't see it.
See, and that's, again, right. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but we want to move you over from where you are because we've lost a lot of the ability to influence you. We were late on the ball in actually developing it. In the UK, they're trying to pass a law where it's saying that for mainstream media outlets, for these, for the YouTube, for these larger platforms, to give them priority preference in terms of what is pushed for you. Basically, let the algorithm help push their news, their messaging out ahead of someone who already is in the space that already has a large following. Not us. Our following is not large, right? Not large, but we just finished year one. So it's clear you want this supremacy. You want the ability to go in and tell people what to believe, what to feel, what to think. Part of that is largely because during our whole broadcast, we're going to have advertisements. This is, we know the deal. Follow the money. I want you to believe. I want you to think this. So first and foremost, I'm gonna push that.
The media suppresses it. The environment, if you want to get the message out, you have to go extreme. And I wish we didn't have that. And if we want to talk about how we should restructure the systems of YouTube and everything, that would be great. And I think we're trying to do that now, trying to get this out.
Do you have to go extreme? I mean, so I'll give an example of somebody who I do think is a healthy figure in this space, which is Chris Williamson. He is like the 8th biggest podcast in the world right now. Like, he's not extreme. He's not saying all the same shit that like Andrew Tate is saying or Myron Gaines is saying, right? It's like, I have an audience of over 10 million people. I'm not saying any of this shit. I don't think you have to be extreme to get it. And I worry that there's some good messages are being attached to so many poison pills that a lot of young men don't know how to differentiate between the good advice and the toxic advice.
That's true. A lot of young men don't know. They're just looking for an answer or guidance. I think some of the podcasts you look at, like Chris Williamson, you look at the Diary of a CEO. Those are great, right? Those are great, but they're great because they talk about a varied amounts of issues. If you're broke, right, and I've experienced this, you want to tell me about putting money on a 401k. That's great information. That's great information. I work at McDonald's. I make $86 every week because I work 2 days a week. What are you talking about? Right? That's not solving my current issue. So yeah, you have this big platform, this big push, but a lot of that's because you don't really go in and you don't really have the people on that, the people that you're trying to affect, people that you're trying to bring, you don't really have their attention. So it's great. You've got the numbers. There's 8 billion people on the planet. So you have 10 million followers. But of those 10 million, how many people simply go to you for things on literature, things on societal sort of notes? But when they come down to say, yeah, man, this is why kind of dating is difficult. And this is what you're supposed to do about it. Get better. Right? Get better. That's what it all boils down to. Advance. Get better. You want better outcomes? Get better. So the same advice my father gave me. 16 years old. I want a girl to touch my wee-wee. Can't convince her. Well, I say, yo, what I'm supposed to do? Get better. So focus on your schoolwork. Girls will come. That's advice. Right now, there's no actionable intel I can give you that's going to help you in your position, because your position is so far out of balance, out of the standard. You got to get better first. A lot of people aren't really comfortable with that message. If it's packaged in a way for Chris Williamson, they're like, cool, great, I get it. But if you hear someone saying, are you in the gym? Get better. What does that mean? It means get in the gym, right? Get a better job, get a hobby, get an interest, find your purpose. That's actionable steps. A lot of these other stuff that it becomes mainstream, it's not for the reasons that someone like Myron has so many followers. Someone like Andrew Tate has so many followers because they're looking there, they're screaming and saying, you need to do this. Here, I am the example of doing this thing. All right. A lot of people in your community don't like Myron Games or Andrew Tate. Exactly. Now, again, eat the meat, spit out the bones. Are there times when the broken clock is right? Yeah. After that, I don't really care for the lifestyle or what you have to say. Do I want a Bugatti? Absolutely. I've dreamt about it like twice in my life. Could I afford it? Absolutely not. Could I afford the gas? Absolutely. The tires, but it sounds nice. But it's appealing to that thing in men who say, yeah, I want to do better. I just want to do better. All these other podcasts that you have a big following, a lot of that is artificial. A lot of that is because you're mainstream. Why does CBS have a bunch of followers, a bunch of subscribers? Is it because CBS is so popular? Because people can't wait. I need this. No, you serve a function, the same function you've always served. We need you here in this space. In this space is when you are looked at as the authority. Mark Manson, New York Times bestseller. People bought the book because they were told to buy the book. They bought the book and now they follow you. But what actionable intel are you giving to people, or are people there with you because they're curious about something, because they need a fix? You're not offering answers or solutions. So people aren't looking for you for the same reasons. They'll look at Myron. Again, I've never understood why you looked impressive debating OnlyFans models. And that serves part of that rage, part of that red pill. I just never saw the appeal. Talk to someone that actually has something on their belt. Find constructive conversations. But again, that doesn't bleed, so it doesn't lead.
That it's leading them down a bad path.
There certainly is some toxic advice out there, but the idea that the primary thing that people are learning from these, I don't think that's true. If you're gone down the rabbit hole and you're watching, 6 hours of Myron Gaines and 4 hours of Andrew Tate, and you're watching collab streams all the time, these people, that's not the majority of people who are involved in the Manosphere.
Totally.
That's not what's happening. The things that you're getting from these people are saying, you know what, maybe you should put more interest into your look. It's not everything, but obviously your look matters. And maybe you should go to the gym. It's not everything, but obviously the gym matters. All of these messages may be packaged with a more extreme idea to it.
Sure.
But the extremeness is how you go viral. And someone like Chris Williamson and someone like yourself, these are great people, but you guys aren't being the number one talked about person on the internet. You guys aren't changing the fundamental way that people view our culture. And I wish you could, but
Right.
the internet isn't set up for that.
We're also not doing it because I don't think it helps. So for example, Movember survey from 2025 found that young men who regularly consume Manosphere content or masculinity influencers were much more likely to report feelings of worthlessness, extreme sadness, and extreme anxiety.
That's backwards causation. It's the people who are feeling extreme worthlessness are looking for someone to teach them what to do.
Hold on now. Hold on now. I think that was a very important point. One, every time you look at these surveys, there's a certain type of person that sits down and does a survey. Right? That's part of the factor here. What we end up doing is looking at these people that do the surveys and then using that to say, well, this is what's happening for the majority of the people there. When's the last time you sat down and did an actual survey? And I'm not talking about after you flew on Delta and say, yo, let me know how we did. Hey, and he said, naturally, excellent, of course, right? You guys are the best. What ends up being said, what ends up being looked at is just saying, okay, do you consume this content? Yes. Do you feel bad? Why don't you start to say, like, how do you feel? How do you feel? Because you can add in another question. You can add in several other questions, right? You feel bad. Do you also eat burgers? Yeah. Well, 25% of people surveyed that eat burgers also feel depressed. That doesn't really tell you anything. When we use these stats to try to make us feel better about what is obvious an issue, we, with any type of discernment, look at that and say, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't really jive. That doesn't really make any sense. I hear what you're saying, but it doesn't make any sense. It's a nice way to put these things together. Leave them on the rack. This is the first time I'm hearing her manager. Yeah. No, he's, and this is not the expected. This is not what's expected when someone that's supposed to be from the Manosphere or the red pill, you don't expect them to have this ability to articulate, because the ones that they go and look and say are the representatives of the Manosphere are the ones that you can talk circles around. They're some of them are belligerent. They're to the point. They know their stuff, but there's a reason when, say, Kevin Samuels was alive, you didn't get a lot of people coming up trying to debate him because he was very articulate. You want someone that doesn't seem to actually know what they're talking about. You want someone that's going to be that's going to stumble over their words, that's going to look silly, that hasn't looked at any data, hasn't looked at any research, doesn't have the ability to actually reason for themselves. You want those people to sit across from them so you can talk circles around them. It's the same thing you see with Piers Morgan when he has some of these people on there. Piers has a bully pulpit, he has a show, he has an audience, but sometimes he invites the wrong person on there and they simply stick to their guns. They'll stick to the guns. I think he had Andrew Tate on there, and it didn't go well. It didn't go well because as much as you may not like Andrew, it's articulate. So you won't really have mainstream people, media, trying to go there and actually debate them. It's like me going on tonight's conversation. I'd be looking at the host, I'd be looking at the people on stage, shaking my head all the time, saying, "You're all crazy." I'm not palatable for that. You have to find the right people that you can say, okay, you equal the Manosphere. You are the Manosphere. Now let me eviscerate you. Mark Manson came in there thinking, I'm going to be able to eviscerate this young man. And now he came out, he's very well reasoned. Even when I came in and brought these stats and brought this, we know you took a survey and said this and that. finish the survey, add extra questions in there. Anyone that actually conducted a survey knows you just don't hit them with all the things you want to know. There's other questions in there that are supposed to be dummy questions, blank questions, neutral questions. Like you would do any type of double-blind study, you also have a control group in there. Here's a placebo. I thought we were getting Viagra. It's a placebo. It got hard anyway. Look at that. Now look at our data. That when you understand these things, you're not who they expect to actually run up there and talk. Yeah, they actually watch the manager. Right. Yeah. Do you watch the Manosphere? Do you also feel worthless? Yes. Right. Why do I feel worthless? Because the society that we have set up for devalues my talent. It uses me, it spits me back up and says, listen, I need the majority of your time in your day. When you go back home, you've got 6 good hours to spend time with your family and your kids. Then you get to do this over 18 years and then look confused why your kids don't really bond with you, why they don't know you, why your wife feels like you haven't helped out. Yeah, I feel worthless. Is it really a me problem in that sense, or is it the way we have things set up? Is it because I don't know how to communicate? There's dozens of reasons in there, but yeah, this has got to be the thing, right? Yeah, he said that women mad, me angry. Yeah, expect to come out there and just like, yeah, you got to be dumb. Now that's not to say you don't see plenty of people with that very same causality, that very same attitude, that very same thinking.
You don't see that same correlation show up in other self-help genres, though.
Well, that's how self-help genres don't help almost always. They're almost always feel-good nonsense. If you're told you're good the way you are, you can do whatever you need, you're a magic special person, that's the kind of thing that someone who is looking for that kind of experience.
Right.
The person who is feeling bad needs someone to tell them, yeah, you are feeling bad. And you need to grow up and you need to get strong. And so the correlation
is
just
holding
backwards.
you down, and it's
Well, it is. We just agreed that elementary schools are trying to oppress men at the age of 7.
Is that the Matrix?
The state, funded by the state. Of course, it's the Matrix.
Cooked him. Yeah, he's absolutely right, man. Like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It sounds silly. It sounds stupid, but he's right. It's this is what we're talking about. The Matrix, right, is basically the government, the state, the controllers, the ones dining and saying this thing should go a certain way, should not go this way. He's not, he's not wrong. He's just not wrong.
Is this a federal policy to tell 7-year-olds that the future is a woman?
Every elementary school, we just agreed on that.
I did not agree it's in every elementary school.
Okay, not every single one.
I agree it's in some, and it's probably
you've seen that before. When you try to split hairs, oh no, not everyone. Not as if we don't see that everything is littered with that very same idea of the future of feminism, right? That became part of a slogan. That people accepted that. It's in colleges.
Certain far left teachers and educators.
Which begins in the far left universities, which are funded by the state and are structured from the top down to oppress. So the structure isn't natural.
To bring it back to my point, which
just
is that
like
you just
go
made
home.
the point that
Just
a lot
go
of
home.
self-help advice is bullshit.
Oh, almost all of it.
Garbage, right? Let's take like The Secret, right? Law of attraction stuff. Do you agree that that's kind of ridiculous? Because I do.
Law of attraction, I'm not sure exactly how that works. I haven't heard
It's
this
like
one.
if you just believe that you deserve something, the universe will give it to you.
Oh yeah, that's nonsense.
Okay.
But it is the case that you could fake it till you make it, and if you act as though you have it, you might be more likely to get it.
Perfect. So we agree on that. So that's a perfect example of what's actually like kind of a good piece of advice, but then it's packaged in this ridiculous cosmological, like, oh, the universe's energy is going to serve you what you deserve and all this shit, right?
It's almost the health and wealth gospel, which is a violation of the the Christian heresy, basically.
But that gets millions of people.
Yeah, he should have. You should just pay them off under the table. Say, yo, don't talk anymore. Just please leave.
People to start focusing more on their goals and dreams. So my argument is that the Manosphere is doing the same thing. It has all of this ideology around the Matrix and the system is oppressing you and you should be angry and all this.
Well, you should be.
So get up and clean your room and go to the gym.
Yes.
So it's good advice packaged in this like.
But the package
elaborate,
that you just said that you should be angry is the correct package because I'm
You gotta
angry
pause
about
there.
it.
He's not wrong. That's the thing. He's not wrong, right? It's not you're upset about what, that they're telling you that what you've been told is sort of wrong. What you think about what we spent the last 10 years talking about, right? Debating what is a female, what is a woman, debating, whether or not you can play in you can transition and you can play in women's sports, and we couldn't even acknowledge that it puts women at a disadvantage because we got so complacent to talking about, well, this feels right. It feels like we should be sitting there and accepting of, yeah, he's absolutely fully good. He's well done, right? You wouldn't eat the steak, where you get to the point where it's like, are we not paying attention to what reality is saying? Facts matter. There is a through line called the truth, in which we all kind of readily agree on. You can believe something, but now for such a long time, especially telling young men, you ain't shit, you ain't shit, you ain't shit. Why would they not want to say, you know what, enough of that? Enough of that. And it seems, okay, you're sitting here arguing with an author versus now you say, look at the last election. Look at the last election. This is why so many of these candidates, especially Trump, was going to these people, these streamers. He went on Joe Rogan, right? Kamala Harris went and call her daddy. You went on this platform of people, right? Call her daddy. You went on this platform of people who were already going to vote for you, right? Already going to vote for you. Trump went on the platforms where just like people like, hey, you know what? I was going to abstain. I was going to abstain. I wasn't going to vote. But now you're in a place where I frequent. This is a place where I buy my bread, right? This is a place where I relax and play my chess. Here you are in my space. I might have to listen to you. You went where the people were. You went where the disaffected youth were. And then meanwhile, what never works, right? What never works is when you start criticizing the people's choice for going that way. When The Rock was the people's champion, you couldn't tell anyone anything. We're all running around taking off our imaginary sleep. You couldn't tell us anything about our champion. Instead of trying to come here and say, well, he's bad, and have these loose sort of things, you never said, let me give you a better alternative. The alternative cannot be the status quo that you want us to run back into. They left for a reason. There's still people there that are super blue pilled. Some people are purple pilled. And purple's like, you do want women, you do want a marriage. You just understand the tenets of what the red, right? They're saying red and blue together, purple. So you still do say, I see what you're talking about. I just still want to be married. I still believe in these things. All that is fine. All of it is fine. But when you come in as the mainstream and start saying, y'all wrong. And y'all wrong because these things are bad. Okay. We have a society set up on the very same ideal. Some things are bad for you, but some things are necessary evil. Gas ain't great. Oil's not great. How many carcinogens do you consume on a daily basis? You just say this is necessary evil. We're here in a heat wave. Anyone telling you, say, turn on your AC? We're not Europe. I got AC. I'm going to use it. In fact, I'm going to make sure I'm just a little bit cold indoors when it's 105, 110 outside, when it feels like 121. It's bad? Yeah, no. I've got a V10 vehicle. Another one's a V8. Another one's electric. Okay. I know what I signed up for. You come and tell me, you should not drive that Audi R8. No alternative, right? Nothing. I say, okay, watch me. Watch me, right? I'm going to spill some gas on the side of the road as well. Just cause you have to give people another avenue. You have to give them a reason to say, this is cool, but these are why these ideas kind of can lead you astray. Here's what we think. And part of here's what we think needs to include the reasons why people ran away. You need to give them a definition. You need to give them an outlet that says, okay, I hear what you're saying, why you feel affected, why you feel disaffected, why you feel disenfranchised. I hear that. Let's do something about that. But you don't. You just come here and wag your finger to grown men. And they say, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I do not care about anything that you have to say at that point in time. But look, this goes on for a whole, hour and change. So if you do have a chance, look at it for yourself, come to your own conclusions. But I think you're all going to kind of fall in line with what we're thinking here, right? That you have to give people some sort of sense, some sort of direction, especially young men. You have to give them a reason to believe in anything that you got going on. What you can't do is just come and say, bad, terrible, awful, no good. You should know better. You should do better. That's not how any of this works. For those of you, we got the next one up is Subscriber Sunday. So if you are new here, make sure you join us there. We all love Subscriber Sunday. We get to laugh, we get to joke. We talk about some serious towards the end, right? That's always the deal. Besides that, I'll catch you guys on the next one.